Hello everyone, my name is John Michael Bushman and welcome back to Magic the Gathering. And normally I wasn't going to do something like this, but if there's one thing that master sets do for Magic the Gathering is that they either break the Pauper format in half or they don't. And in this case, we got a bunch of good toys for the Pauper format. So without further ado, and we do only have like about 30-ish cards to go through, and honestly, not all of them are going to be impactful for the Pauper format because some of these cards already exist. But yeah, some of these cards, I mean, the first one right here already, it already has a lot of people in chatter on what Bogles is gonna do, so we're gonna talk over it now. So, in this video, we will be talking about all of the downshifts that happened for the Pauper format, and first among of which is All That Glitters. It was an uncommon, a really good bomb uncommon in the Eldraine draft format, and then here it is now in all its glory in common. So yeah, oh boy, this is gonna light Bogles up on fire if it already did. I mean, Bogles are already like um are a known quantity in the Pauper format, and then they already have like ethereal armor as a way to pump their untargetable creatures to insane amounts of attack and defense power. And then they finally, this is basically like ethereal armor copies 5 to 8. That's what All That Glitters does, and of note, it counts artifacts and enchantments. And because we have artifact lands in Pauper now, or rather twice as many, I mean, compared to the OG art, rather alongside the OG artifact lands, I can definitely see some Bogles decks like rocking absolutely no basics at all, and just running full play sets of ethereal armor and All That Glitters is basically a way to cheese out victories by swinging for like 10 to 15 every turn. This is scary. This is definitely a very scary downshift. So you'd better board in black and have your edict style effects at the ready. Good God, the slippery bogle is gonna be all over the place now. Then up next, if we can find it. Oh, it's not here. Shite. Okay. I think we're gonna have to sort of redo this because they're not. Wait, no. We can arrange them by color. We just need to oh God, sort by color. Yeah, there we go. I thought this video was gonna have to be redone, but nope. Here we go. Okay, another really bomb uncommon that was downshifted is Generous Gift. Beast Within has yet to make it to the Pauper format, but instead we get the white variant. The wording on this is basically the exact same as Beast Within, if you're familiar with that, especially if you play EDH. Having essentially non conditional removal in Pauper is very hard to come by. There are no exile effects in this format. Most of the removal here is either you delete the creature straight up with black removal, or you deal enough damage to them until they die in the case of red removal. But with white getting essentially an EDH level removal spell for the Pauper format, I can definitely see this being in, well, at the very least, sideboards. Moving forward, basically as a way to get rid of problematic permanents in white-based decks, and hell, it just says destroy target permanent, so it can even be your own stuff. So you could just upgrade any of your permanents into a 3/3 and then hopefully swing out from there. Up next, another downshift, Ministerment of Obligation. This seems innocuous at first, but at least in the draft format for Commander Masters, there seems to be a sacrifice-based draft archetype, so this will definitely slot in there. But in the constructed in Pauper in particular, it's a 2/1 that basically becomes 2/2/1, so it's 4-ish power across like 3 bodies. Of course, Ministerment of Obligation needs to die first. I don't see this having too much of an impact because 3 mana is a bit steep, even in a format like Pauper, but we're gonna see. Unlike this card, Mearsmith. This is basically the budget version of Riddlesmith. Thank God Riddlesmith has not yet been downshifted to common because, good God, that will definitely break this entire format in half because Lotus Petal will literally just be a draw engine in all of itself. So there's that. At least this one, you only need to pay 1 and it's on cast, so it's a little slower, but I can definitely see this being slotted into artifact based decks moving forward. Up next, Spectral Grasp. This is basically there's this player at my LGS where it's basically like 16 to 20 different forms of present of basically pacifism style effects. He just calls it go to sleep. He just calls the entire deck go to sleep. Or if you want to be more pedantic about it, he calls it go the fuck to sleep. After the book of the same name, where it's all this kind of effect. You enchant the creature and then it can't attack you or planeswalkers control, and then it also can't block. And other forms of flavor right there. Or I think the best one of the bunch currently is ossification, but I think that's an uncommon. And good God, we will not be seeing that one just yet. Not yet, anyway. Another downshift. Here, Sunblade Angel for 6 mana, 3/3, flying first strike, vigilance, lifelink. It's basically keyword soup. But unfortunately, it dies to lightning bolt. That's honestly the biggest downside to this card. I mean, it's a big, splashy common. Can even be used to shore up, either win cons for a control deck, or you can cheat this out using a reanimation spell, as we will see much later. But I'm not too high on this because, again, 3 toughness, it dies to a lot of red base removal, so probably a pass on this downshift. Up next is interesting because Supply Runners. It's 5 mana, yes, but it puts a +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control. It doesn't seem like much, but sometimes the boost in power, basically giving it a +1, can usually be more than enough to close out games. As you saw earlier, Battle Screech will be reprinted in Commander Masters, so I can definitely see a draft archetype being built around basically using Supply Runners as a permanent anthem for the entire board. And if the board is pretty wide, you definitely will be winning twice as fast compared to just having yourself be pecked by 1/1s in the air all the time. So definitely keep an eye out for this one. Then moving on to the blues, here, Cryptic Serpent. This one has been downshifted for the longest time. It was just an uncommon, and now it's a common. So you can definitely replace your Gurmag Anglers now because you don't need to delve your graveyard away anymore. This is Tolarian Terrors, copies 5 to 8. Although granted, this guy doesn't protect himself, but if you use Birthday Escape in order to grant basically, and then make Cryptic Serpent the ring bearer, he will be immune to cast down now. So yeah, keep an eye out for this one. As if Dimir Terror didn't already have enough toys, it now got a new one out of Commander Masters. Yeah, I have my my notes here on the side because I can't exactly access my my desktop while I'm recording because I'm using the OBS thing where it records what's literally on screen, and then if I alt tab every time, it's not gonna be a pretty sight. Unlike this one, this is a horrifying sight. Filigree Attendant, 4 mana for a *3. Its power is equal to the number of artifacts you control. So at base, this is a 4 mana 1/3. But if you have a lot of artifacts on board, it can definitely exponentially grow. Artifact decks can definitely make use out of this, but being only at 3 toughness, I don't exactly see this coming into play, even in the decks that can support it, because there are simply better threats out there. Although, yes, it flies, so it gets by a lot of the more ground-based blockers, but otherwise, no. Pass up on this downshift. But speaking of passing on a downshift, Goliath Sphinx, the first of 2 rares, I tell you, that were downshifted all the way to common. This doesn't happen often, but it usually happens with master sets, where they would take a rare, and then the R&D team says, you know what, this should be a common instead. This is a waste of a rare slot. And And there we go. Goliath Sphinx is one of them. It's a 7-mana 8/7 that flies. Do I do I need to say more? I can definitely see this being a finisher for control decks because, as I've come to realize over the years, in Pauper, sometimes 7 mana, you can get 7 mana no problem in this format, in spite of the fact that land destruction is very, very common in this commons only format. So keep an eye out for this one. 8/7 is pretty sizable stats. I'm not gonna lie. And then, this row right here, these are 3 exciting ones. Murmuring Mystic at first. So we're finally getting a young Pyromancer style effect in Pauper. And at 1/5, Murmuring Mystic is gonna be blocking for days. This definitely stonewalls out of aggro decks, and then the tokens it creates are flyers as well. So I can definitely see this guy being part of a new-ish, is it based tempo deck of some kind? And then, as we will see later, it has a partner in crime. When we get to that. So yeah, definitely keep an eye out for Murmuring Mystic, and also here, Renowned Weaponsmith, being downshifted from uncommon. This guy, there'll probably be a build around, because it allows you to search 2 pieces of equipment. So the way I see it is, there are only like a playset of Renowned Weaponsmith, and then you only have one of each of Heartpiercer Bow and Vial of Dragonfire, so that you can just search it out using his ability. But otherwise, he is basically a 2 mana dork for artifacts, and there are probably decks that can support him, but otherwise, it's a little more on the janky side of things. But this Reverse Engineer, this seems innocuous. It seemed innocuous at first, I know, because 5 mana draw 3. That's sort of on rate, I guess, for 5 mana draw 3 card draw in Magic the Gathering. But the biggest thing that Reverse Engineer has is Improvise. When it was, at uncommon, it was like, okay, sure, Improvise artifact decks, and they're better like draw spells in higher rarities, but at common, and then with affinity still being a thing even after all these years, I can definitely see Reverse Engineer like being in the deck, because there aren't exactly like Thought Monitor style effects in Pauper, because that'll break the format in half, of course. But it is competing for a slot with Thoughtcast, which is honestly a lot cheaper to cast and a lot easier to set up compared to Reverse Engineer. Although granted, you can just tap 5 artifacts, no matter what color they are, or rather, no matter what color they produce, and then Improvise already does like half the work. So there's that. Definitely keep an eye out on this one moving forward. And then this next row, also like 3 of the 4 cards here are all downshifts. Shipwreck Dowser. It has prowess, so it will definitely survive at least 1 lightning bolt. Then when it enters the battlefield, it returns an instant or sorcery from graveyard to hand. I mean, at 5 mana, that's a bit much. If it were 4, I would definitely raise an eyebrow. But this doesn't even raise an eyebrow. This downshift is honestly a waste. There's better effects out there for that mana cost. But speaking of better effects at the common slot, Vizier of Tumbling Sands finally becoming common. This is scary. Because all you need to do is cycle, and then you untap a target permanent. And apparently, people are slotting this into Walls combo, where you would tap and untap Axebane Guardian multiple times, and when you cycle it, it even has card draw built in. So this is insane at common. So definitely keep an eye out for this one moving forward. Then Windrider Wizard, I am assuming this belongs in the same draft archetype as Murmuring Mystic, so it's also a draw engine for that deck. I can definitely see like I said, with Murmuring Mystic, and is it based Temple Shell, where you have Windrider Wizard and Murmuring Mystic as ways to generate advantage, or hell, even win in the case of Murmuring Mystic. Keep an eye out for this one moving forward. Then up next, Carrier Thrall, which apparently this isn't the first time Carrier Thrall was downshifted, because its first downshift was in Double Masters. So there's that. A 2-mana 2/1 that creates a 1/1 on death. There are definitely better effects out there, and it's usually cheaper to cast, or far more reliable on the battlefield. Let's say with Nest Invader, which is a 2 mana 2/2 that creates a 1/1 on entry. So it has a lot of competition, but I don't see it getting anywhere else. And then another downshift, On Grub, which is a really recent card, as I've come to find out. I did some research before recording, and On Grub is really, really recent. Although, granted, 4 mana for a 0/5, where it gets a power boost depending on the creature with greatest power in your graveyard. So if you have, say, a Ulamog's Crusher there, it becomes a 4 mana 8/5, and it doesn't die to Lightning Bolt as easily. So there's that. I might slot this into my Reanimator deck, which is a deck that has been ailing, honestly, ever since the printing of Cast Down. But at the very least, Carrion Grub doesn't die to Snuff Out, so it has that going for it. And at 5 toughness, it will definitely survive a lot of red base removal, so they would have to spend at least 2 Lightning Bolts to kill this thing. But otherwise, just keep an eye on it, but don't be too high on it. And then up next, Demon's Disciple. This is a surprising one. I did not expect this to become common at any point in its lifespan, because all of, well, maybe except Fleshbag Marauder, though I don't exactly remember if Fleshbag Marauder was ever printed at common. So the fourth of the 3 mana creature that becomes an edict on entry is finally at common. That's scary. A lot of the creature-based decks, especially the Black X decks, will definitely make use of this. And at 3/1, it's also a decent attacker. And but the way I see this guy, it's just an edict with a small upside. An edict that can attack even if you choose to not sacrifice it. But usually, with Demon's Disciple, Flashback Marauder, basically other similar effects, they're usually just slightly overcosted edicts that can attack when the situation calls for it. And then 2 downshifts here. Dread Return. So this is really, really scary. When I saw this, when it was like fresh off of the previews, I was definitely scared, because with all of the token generators that Pauper has these days, Dread Return being available to those decks is definitely scary. I can definitely see this being in Reanimator decks moving forward, if even, because a free reanimation spell is still a free reanimation spell, even though you have to set it up in order to make it work. And then another downshift, which is Drown in Sorrow. I would make a Linkin Park joke here, but I have big respect for Chester Bennington, so no Linkin Park jokes here. Well, at least not yet. So this is basically a cheaper to cast Arms of Hadar, but harder to cast because of the double black. Although you at least get a scry one out of it, this is definitely a sideboard all-star, because a lot of board wipes in Pauper are only like -1 or -2, or deal 2 damage to everything. Nothing ever goes up to 3, and having Drown in Sorrow with the upside of scry one, that's definitely a welcome sight. I can definitely see this being in sideboards that can support it moving forward. Up next, again, another row where like 3 of the 4 cards are like all downshifts. Legion Vanguard. I was actually not high on this at first, but then I kept reading it. And it's a 2 mana 2/2 that can potentially grow, and not only grow, but it can also get bigger with every card that you explore. So Legion Vanguard is definitely very powerful, because the Explorer not only sets up your graveyard, but can also like make decide your draws even. And let me just have a drink of water. There we go. The Explorer can help shape your draws, and it can fill up your graveyard even. So definitely keep an eye out for Legion Vanguard moving forward. And then Lotleth Giant. I cannot believe I can't pronounce this word. This seems innocuous at first, but the way I see it, if you're a graveyard-based deck, which not a lot of Pauper decks are, surprisingly. There's like a really good mix of creatures and non-creatures in Pauper, so I don't see this guy having too much of an impact. But I'm I'm a reanimator player, and I have a lot of like creatures that go into and out of the graveyard often, so I can definitely see this guy making its way there. Next up, Meyer Triton. This is basically one card removed from Stitcher Supplier, becoming legal in the Pauper format. It's a mill 2, gain 2. It seems innocuous, but it can definitely block. Because at 2 power, it can definitely tangle with even like the best red base creatures. Although granted, it's only 1 toughness, so it will die to a stiff breeze. But at least it did its job before doing so. Right, we move on to the next page. Here we go. Nazars Nightblade. This is apparently an uncommon that I've never heard of from Commander Legends. I think the Baldur's Gate one. Yeah. This is the Mirkwood Bats before it was Mirkwood Bats. And the wording is it's only whenever something a token leaves the battlefield. So it doesn't even need to have been destroyed or sacrificed. As long as it left the battlefield, it will definitely be it'll definitely see play. Although granted, having only 3 toughness means it's not gonna survive on the field for too long. But she would have definitely done her job by the time that's gonna happen. And then in my notes, Phyrexian Gargantua is just here, and then in my notes it's written 2 Phyrexian Ragers in a trench coat. I mean, that's exactly what it is. And then finally in the black cards, which is Cauldron, another sacrifice outlet. It's only a 1 mana sacrifice outlet, by the way. So in affinity style decks, I can definitely see this seeing play because again, it's just an artifact, and as if affinity needed any more help, we're gonna see affinity like become even stronger now. I mean, apart from Dimir Terror getting 1 really good toy, and hell, even Bogles getting 2 new toys. Affinity is just going to keep getting better from this point on. And I'm sick of that deck at this point. Another sacrifice outlet here in Blood Aspirant. This was another downshift. It's not as powerful as Legion Vanguard, unfortunately. Although, granted, it is a pseudo burn spell. Although it only sacrifices a creature or enchantment, and it only targets creatures. So a 2 mana 1/1 that dies to a lot of things. But although yes, I said but and although in the same breath, but we're gonna keep going here. Blood Aspirant, there's definitely a home for it, but I'm not quite sure where it is. Okay, let's keep scrolling here. Okay, just 2 downshifts here. Cyclops Electromancer and Dwarven Hammer. Cyclops Electromancer, a 5 mana 4/2. Well, it's a finisher ish. It hits hard, but the fact that it only targets creatures, that's what breaks it for me, unfortunately. I don't see this being in a lot of decks moving forward. But again, it is a 5 mana creature that can hit hard. And then Dwarven Hammer, this is basically a 3 mana 5/1. Yeah, it's a 3 mana 5/1 with trample. I don't see this being in any decks, unfortunately, because as I've been playing the format, these artifact-based decks don't exactly seem to go anywhere. So I was high on it at first because it's a 3 mana 5/1 that swings once and then you're done with it. So it's essentially a ball lightning. But otherwise, no. But then this guy right here, oh boy, Gutter Snipe. Finally becoming a common. This is scary. As if Burn wasn't already good enough, Gutter Snipe suddenly comes in and says, hey, you now have an additional finisher in me. So, yeah, do I need to say anymore? This is like an all-star in EDH. If you're a Spellslinger deck and you have the room to do so, people definitely slot Gutter Snipe in there, and finally seeing it become legal in Pauper is very, very scary. Keep an eye out for this one moving forward. Up next, two more downshifts, Living Lightning and Rapacious one. And they're okay. Unfortunately, they're just okay. Living Lightning needs to die for it to do its thing. And being at 3-2, it's fine and all, but if it were 3 mana, I would definitely be more accepting of it. But unfortunately, it's at 4 mana, so no. Then Rapacious one, whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you get an Eldrazi spawn. Or rather, that many Eldrazi spawn, but there are better effects, sort of. But I'll keep an eye out for this one because at 6 mana and with trample, and then it also has a chance to, even just getting one hit in will get you one Eldrazi spawn. So maybe that extra mana is worth it, but who knows? We'll find out in a couple of months once this entire set has flooded the market. And then a card that I did not expect to get downshifted is Spite Bellows. I also did not know that Spite Bellows was only an uncommon until this printing. So yeah, an evoked creature that deals 6 damage to anything. So huzzah! Goodbye, Tolarian Terror, Gurmag Angler. We've been seeing a lot of effects like this lately, where spells can deal over 6 points of damage, or have a -6 effect on them because, good God. Tolarian Terror is like the menace of the blue menace of the format right now. I can definitely see this being in red-based decks moving forward, because 6 damage is like one of the highest numbers you can go for in this format. And speaking of 6 damage, Sulphurous Blast only hits for 5, potentially, although it can be a board wipe for 3 instead. So this is like one of the biggest board wipes this format's going to get. But it is at 4 mana, so it's a little hard to get to. But making it deal 3 damage, I can definitely see this seeing play moving forward. Now we move on to the green spells, and we have 2 downshifts here. Another big downshift is Crash of the Rhino Beetles. This used to be a rare, and a 5 mana 5/5 with trample doesn't seem like a lot, and then it gets +10/+10 if you have 10 or more lands, so it's a 5 mana 15/15 with trample. I wasn't high on this at first, but then I thought about it and I'm like, wait, this goes so well in my in my Jund Initiative deck, because that deck ramps a lot, and hell, even Walls combo, a deck that generates like oodles upon oodles of mana. I can definitely see them running 1 to 2 copies of this. Hell, even in my deck of Jund Initiative, Crash of the Rhino Beetles, I can definitely see myself eventually, if I finagle with the numbers a bit, Crash of the Rhino Beetles can be seen as a 1 or maybe 2 of in the deck. Granted, 5 mana 5/5 with trample is like decent, but if you're definitely going to aim to make this a 15/15 most of the time. And then another downshift here, Crawling Infestation. This one is also surprisingly recent, coming in from Crimson Vow of all places. So this just basically sets up your graveyard. The thing that breaks this for me is any time it would create an insect, it's only once per turn. WotC knew what they were doing when they printed this in Crimson Vow, where most Innistrad sets are like based around the graveyard, so having this be a way to like fill up your graveyard every upkeep, they knew what they were doing by making it a once per turn, and or rather the insect creation to be a once per turn. And to see this in Pauper, I have no idea what it'll do, because there are like only very niche decks that can support it, but keep an eye out for this one, because the Mildew might be like the very floor it needs to see playability. Okay, we're gonna scroll down here. Let me just check my notes instead. What other cards should we keep an eye out for? Oh yeah, okay. Rot Shambler. Yeah. This is another one that people are sort of excited for. It's only a 2 mana 1/1, yes, but whenever a creature dies, you put a 1/1 counter on it. So I can definitely see this like becoming at least a 4/4 before it outlives its usefulness. But it's very cheap to cast as well, so there's that. but I don't think this will see as much play as I wanted to. Granted, I have like a very weird affinity with fungi, because I used to run a Slimefoot combo deck in Commander. And seeing any fungus, I immediately gravitate towards it because it's a mushroom. It's like living mushrooms. I mean, how could you say no to that thing? But we move on. All right. Last couple of downshifts here. We have Sky Snare Spider, obligatory spider in the draft format. This seems innocuous at first, but a 6-mana 6/6 with vigilance and reach might just be what we need to combat the flying based decks around this format. And because it also has vigilance, I can definitely see this being in the sideboards of certain decks. But otherwise, I am just talking out of my ass, and we will move on. Up next, we have Brass Knuckles. Again, this seems nice because it doubles itself. Because why would you only have Brass Knuckles for one hand when you can have it for two? And then you'd need to have two or more equipment to the creature. Unfortunately, I don't think this will see any play. I want it to be playable so bad, but you'd need to have a lot of equipment for it to truly work. Speaking of something that works, Firemine Vessel. Oh my god. As if Affinity didn't already get enough toys, we have Firemine Vessel being downshifted. And this is scary. 4 mana, granted it didn't enter stat, but that did not stop Affinity players from trying to break the format. I can definitely see this being in play, especially in decks that can support it, because you get two of your mana back whenever you use it. And then, of course, it's an artifact, so Affinity, fuck you, and fuck you for making my life miserable. I think the last piece of equipment that was downshifted here is Vulshock Battle Gear. It's a 3 mana equipment that gives +3/+3. It's quite literally on rate. I mean, everything here it says it's 3. But I don't think this will see too much play in Pauper. Again, equipment-based decks aren't exactly a thing in Pauper. That's usually like left to Bogles. If you want to put pants on a creature, and yeah, I don't think this will see too much play. But apart from that, yeah, that's quite literally everything. Those are all the cards that, or at least the cards that will oh, no, we're gonna do that one again. Yes, I am not going to cut this out, and we're gonna do this live. Those are all of the cards that have been downshifted for the common rarity here in Commander Masters. So yeah, I can definitely see Bogles and some form of reanimator deck seeing play in the Pauper format now. And then Affinity got a lot of really powerful toys. So yeah, I'll see you guys play. You guys will see me playing Pauper either in paper or in Magic Online, whenever that will be. So if you like what you saw, hit like, comment, subscribe, and share this among your friends. And until next time, toodles!